What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another arousing edition of Music Maniacs with your host, Dr. Earl and Arknoy Strogamine. Now, we've been trying to get YR onto the call there. I tried a couple times, but unfortunately, he's not available at the moment there. He'll probably showed up later on. But in the meantime, I'm going to possibly add Prince Idol onto the call if he's available. I know he's been busy a few times with his daughter and all that. So let's see what goes on. I'm going to add Prince on to the mix right now. See who is available. Such and such. Okay, so let's see if he is available. But in the meantime, before we begin, we have some interesting news here regarding a well-known Irish singer from the alternative music spectrum, Sinead O'Connor. It was announced earlier today that she had passed away at the age of 56. I got NPR.com on my, what is it? No. NPR ORG, my bad. Sinead O'Connor, the Irish singer known for her intense and beautiful voice, her political convictions, and personal triumph that overtook her later years, has died at the age of 56. Her recording of Prince's "Nothing Compares to You" was one of her biggest hits in the early 1990s. Her death was announced by her family. The cause and date of her death were not made public just yet. The statement reads, "It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of our beloved Sinead. Her family and friends are devastated and have requested privacy at this very difficult time." Now, alternative radio in the late 1980s rang with the voices of female singers who defied commercial expectations of what women should look like and how they should sound. Remember, one of the big reasons why she had her head shaved like she did was so that people can listen to her music instead of look at her face there. Because remember, they do that a lot of times in the music industry. They rather concentrate on the looks instead of the talent, which is unfortunate. Now, even in a crowd that included Tracy Chapman, the Indigo Girls, experimental artist Laurie Anderson, Sinead definitely stood out. The cover to her first album, released in 1987, was so striking, not just because of her face, but it was her shaved head, bald to almost shaven altogether. Her wrists were locked defensively across her heart. The album's titled "The Lion and the Cobra" refers to a verse from Psalm 91 about believers and the power and resilience of their faith. And throughout her earlier life, Sinead was I had the word in my hand and it just dropped out of my vocabulary for some reason. Realize it's a silent and the re at the end of it, at the beginning of it. My bad. But either way, she was a fine individual. She said she grew up in a severely abusive situation. Her mother was the perpetrator. She mentioned in 2004. So much of child abuse is about being voiceless. And it's a wonderfully healing thing to make sounds. Now, for I understand, her mother was also a religious figure as well, which probably explains why she did what she did on Saturday Night Live back in 1992, in which she ripped up a picture of the Pope after performing her song "War," which I guess was a Bob Marley cover, if I'm correct there. Now,
Don't know.
either way, her doing that not only may have messed up her career, but it also messed up her among many peers. She was slated to perform a Bob Dylan song at the Bob Dylan tribute concert later on that same year. When she walked on stage, she was booed massively. Chris Christopherson, one of the MCs out there, don't let that bullshit get to you. And instead of doing that, and instead of performing of doing songs, she went on and did the same song she did on Saturday Night Live. It just walked off, head hung low, into the bracing arms of Chris Christopherson. Who cannot forget that scenario? Now, after childhood spent being booed off by Catholic schools and busted repeatedly for shoplifting, a nun gave her a guitar and she began to sing on the streets of Dublin, Ireland, then with a popular British group called Intua Nua. I cannot pronounce it, but either way, Connor came into the attention of U2's guitarist known as The Edge, and she got herself signed to the Chrysalis record label. Her second album, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, went double platinum in 1990. And the single from that album, Nothing Compares to You, which was written by Prince for a protege group he had called The Family, became a massive hit. It got a distillation of O'Connor's prayerful sense of music and her fury over social injustice. She rejected its 4 Grammy nominations as being too commercial, and in her words, for destroying the human race. She was banned from a New Jersey arena where she refused to sing the Star-Spangled Banner for its lyrics glorifying bombs bursting in the air. Rock critic Bill Wyman, not the bass player for the Rolling Stones, said that O'Connor belonged to a proud Irish tradition of speaking up against the established order. He stated, she knows she's always on the side of the victims and the vulnerable and the weak. Of course, she appeared on Saturday Night Live, as you mentioned, where she ripped up a picture of the Pope saying the words, "Fight the real enemy." What followed in the media was a collective howl of outrage. It drowned out her performance. It also affected her in the Catholic Church for many years. Basically, the reason she did that was because of the abuse that was going on within the Catholic Church for many years. She had said in an interview in 2010, after she did that, she knew what she was going to expect. She said, "It was grand, to be honest. I knew people would react. I knew there would be trouble. I was quite prepared to accept that. To me, it was more important that I recognize what I will call the Holy Spirit." She was rock music's Joan of Arc, as she began to be called by many critics and fans. She was a feminist as well, and if she wasn't, she supported the Irish Republican Army until she didn't. She got ordained as a Catholic priest in a rogue sect. She converted to Islam. She went from a celibacy to oversharing about her taste in sex. She changed her name many times before, calling herself this name or that name, although she was continued to release music under her name, Sinead, of course, and her music veered unpredictably from new age to opera to reggae. Even though she never produced another notable hit after that, tabloids kept covering her 4 marriages, her 4 divorces, 4 children, her feuds with other celebrities, ranging over the years like Frank Sinatra and Miley Cyrus. And the rock critic that we mentioned before, Bill Wyman, said, "I think people lost respect for her credibility, and her later records were not just as fun. They were poorly produced, they were odd, and they were not just as enjoyable." In later years, she took to Facebook and Twitter to write about her struggle with mental illness. She brought up suicide, and she attempted more than once. If you came in the ages of the 1980s, one song you heard over and over was the song "Never Gets Old" from her first record. If only somehow she could have gotten old as powerfully as her strongest songs. After her death, the Prime Minister of Ireland issued a statement on social media saying, "Really sorry to hear the passing of Sinead O'Connor. Her music was loved around the world, and her talent was unmatched and beyond compare. Our condolences to her family, her friends, and all who loved her music. May her soul rest at the right hand of God." And it concludes by saying, if you or someone you know is considering suicide, call the 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988, or the crisis text line by texting HOME to 741-741. All right, and that goes out to everybody out there listening who is feeling the same thing as we mentioned a few minutes ago there, feeling down in the dumps. Don't take your life. You got a lot to live for. If you're at that peak, I should say, definitely do what's suggested here. Now, let me say that I was not a big fan of Sinead O'Connor to begin with. I understand she had a lot of resentment towards the Catholic Church because of the abuse that they were doing to their clergy members, mainly young boys and girls. You may remember back in the early 2000s when all this person was coming out saying they were abused by this priest, when that person was coming out and saying they were molested by this priest. Me and my brother-in-law had a discussion about this particular situation, and he said that one possible reason why may have been the fact that priests, reverends, pastors had to remain solvent. I mean, no sex, no jacket off, no making out, no anything. And sooner or later, that sexual tension buildup is going to come out. And they have no one else, they have no other woman to take it out on, so they possibly seek to one of their members of their flock. Even though they know it's wrong, but somehow, it just kind of, it's hard to explain. But either way, doing that is wrong. It's sickening. To do that to an innocent child, no, it's not the right thing to do. It's disgusting. And bottom line, just don't do that, folks. Don't do that. And anybody who does that kind of crap deserves to be in prison for life, or hung by their nuts. All right. But all in all, rest in peace to Sinead O'Connor. You will be missed. If it's to say that she was one of the prime reasons, probably one of the most defiant female artists, and soon many others would follow just as well. No doubt about that. Now, on to the main subject of our show, TV theme songs.
And it needs to be the more memorable ones, because technically all shows have a theme of some sort.
Yeah, that's true there. And we have a lot of memorable ones, that's for sure there. No doubt about that. We can we'll also begin with Dragnet. Dun, 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 dun. The Jack Webb produced series there. It's no doubt, Jack Webb's music was highly, Jack Webb's programs was always interesting to listen to, let alone watch. The way he kind of like did his thing there with Dragnet and all the other shows that he was responsible for, whether it's Emergency, Adam 12, Project UFO. I mean, like, it's but Dragnet definitely was one of the peak of his television careers. These were actual cases depicted on TV.
And that show lasted, I think, 20 plus years. I think.
Yeah, because it originally aired, I think in the 50s, I guess it was, or 40s or 50s, if I'm correct.
I think so.
And it came back in the 1960s with Jack Webb and Henry Morgan. Thank you very much. I was going to say Harry Cannon, but I realized no, it's Bill Cannon. That's his That's the partner's name, and it took place in sunny Los Angeles back in the 1960s. And this was the kind of couple of years before the San Francisco psychedelic heyday, if I'm correct there. Because
Yeah.
everybody was always neatly dressed, spoken formative and all that stuff there. Of course, we cannot forget another television theme song, Batman, with Adam West and Burt Ward. Da 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 Batman.
Batman.
Yep. There was a local group called Sweet Teas. They used to play the Ritz, New York, and all the other local spots. They would do that cover, and some little boy would come out. I don't know if it was the son of one of the band members, but they would do that well. And people were praising the kid for being on stage at that such young of an age.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Batman was probably one of the most uniquely respected theme songs for many years. Heck, the show is still respected to this very day. When you think about it.
Well, everybody talks about the campy, cheesy acting by Adam West,
Burt Ward and everybody else.
but that's what made this show.
Exactly. That's how TV was back then. It didn't have any slick acting as we have nowadays with shows like CSI Miami or Miami Vice or any other programs. That was how it was back then. I mean, when you look at some of the episodes of the 60s Dragnet, everybody almost talked like robots when you think about it there. Compared to today's
Jack
acting
Webb's been accused of wooden acting.
That's true there, yes. Yeah. Of course, but then again, the theme music is always memorable. That's for sure there.
Yeah.
Yep. We cannot forget the Munsters.
Yep. No words. It was just a melody.
Exactly. And
But then on the other hand, the Addams Family,
oh my gosh.
they're creepy and they're spooky.
Yep. Yep. That's still iconic to this very day. And the cast members snapping their fingers, sip, sip, bum, 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 snip, snip, bum, 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 every one of them. John Ashton, Lisa Loring, what's her name?
Carolyn Jones.
Carolyn Jones. Yes, thank you there. Yep. And probably fits to say that the Addams Family was probably one of the first goth families out there in the 1960s. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that Morticia Addams still remains a favorite among the goth rock crowd, especially with the females there.
Yeah, that spider dress, the whole bit.
Yeah, absolutely, there. And you got to say, she did look absolutely fly. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a few years ago when they put Christine Ricci's face in the place of Angelica Houston's Morticia Addams. It's pretty, but a lot of people were giving a lot of hearts and flowers to that photo. It may have been photoshopped years ago, but who knows? Either way, it looked pretty damn good. Another one that looked pretty good was Lily Munster in a bikini. I think I may have showed you one of those one time before, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yes. But, anyways, back to the theme music there. We also cannot forget the Welcome Back, Kotter theme song, sung by
John Sebastian, yeah.
of the Loving Spoonful. Yes, that was one of his big hits back then. And also, it was a pretty damn good series there. That's when we first got introduced to a guy named John Travolta, who, by the way, appeared in a couple of commercials prior to that series taking off. You may remember, my dad had a lot. We expected our dad, but we didn't expect him to die. It was a sort of a dream, I guess the family had, and I guess they turned the open to closed sign. I forgot which commercial it was there, but it was a sort of I'm not too sure what it was, but to a young boy, that's kind of sad. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's when we first heard of this acting phenomenon known as John Travolta. That's for sure.
Okay, and now you got the iconic westerns.
Hmm
Do you remember Rawhide?
Not too well. I think you mentioned it a couple times in the past, but I remember
That has a
Bonanza.
great theme song.
Mm.
And the lead actor in that film was a young guy by the name of Clint Eastwood
Oh wow, interesting.
in that series.
Interesting there. Wow.
Then you had Richard Boone as Paladin, which had a beginning theme, but the song was actually at the end of the show.
Ah, I see there. That was the most
And let's
interesting.
see, you mentioned Bonanza, which
Yes.
was just a theme. There wasn't any words, but definitely one people remember when they hear it.
Yes. I remember Lauren Green being one of the stars of that show along with a young Michael Landon.
Right? And you
Who
had
they
Dan Blocker, and
Yeah.
for a few years, Pernell Roberts.
Mm-hmm. And of course we cannot forget the theme music for the Monkees.
Well, yeah, there was the beginning one that everybody knows, the Monkees theme,
Yep.
and then they ended with one called For Pete's Sake,
Mm-hmm.
which was a different tune, but a
Yes.
pretty good one.
Good one either way. And of course, you all know the Monkees were modeled after the Beatles, no doubt. It ran on NBC TV for a couple of years there. They had their standard look with the red long sleeve shirts and a couple others there. And it fits to
Mike
say that
Nesmith with a wool hat.
absolutely there. That was his original nickname for the show there, but they decided to go with his full name there. In fact, I think may remember some thumbnails I uploaded of the Beatles hanging out with members of the Monkees as well.
Yeah, they actually kind of liked him.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so it's pretty good there. And sadly, Mickey Dolenz, one of the singers and the supposed drummer of the group, he's the only monkey left.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I read an interview somewhere with one of them. I think it was Michael Nesmith said that they were actually doing what they were talented to do. Nesmith would play the bass, Torque would play the guitar, Davy Jones would play the drums, and Mickey Dolenz would be the front man.
Yeah. Of course, you got to remember they were under John Kirshner's tutelage for a good couple of years until they finally gained control of that. Because, but then again, you got to remember, they had a very tight schedule at that time. They had to come up with
Yep.
all these tunes, they had all these other session musicians. They were on a very tight schedule between recording time, studio time, filming time, and everything else. It's when he got rid
Right.
of Kirshner. That's when he decided. That's when those records kind of took a lot longer to produce. Needless to say.
And they were writing their own tunes and playing their own instruments.
Yeah, it's right there. And of course, at the time, when it all ended in 1977, ended in 1970. Even though the show went off the air after a couple of years, they still continued to put out records. The last being a disc called Changes, which was only Davy and Mickey. Nesmith
Yeah.
had left, Peter Tork had left, and it was just those two only, and that was it. Okay, so
And there's the Dick Wolf series.
the
All
Law
Law and
and
Orders.
Order. I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know if you may remember back in 2020, I did my version of that theme song there. Have you ever heard it?
No.
I'll play it for you right now. Right here.
Each of the shows had a slightly different take on the theme.
Absolutely. There was a many different versions of that show, whether it's the original, Special Victims Unit, Criminal Intent,
Organized crime.
Yep, with Christopher Meloni, much credit to him. And two of the franchise that didn't do so well, Trial by Jury and Law and Order Los Angeles. Those two shows came and went within a short period of time there for
And they
some
had a
reason.
Law and Order UK.
Yeah, I remember seeing one of the episodes of that. Yes, I remember. Very good. It had a different theme music to that as well. All right, check
And
this.
continue now. Go ahead.
Well, I got to play you my version of the Law and Order theme. See what you think of this. There you go. Pretty good, ain't it?
Sounds like the SVU.
Yeah. Something like that, yes.
And of course, Dick Wolf, being the busy man he is,
Yep.
also produced four Chicago shows. Chicago
Yes.
Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and for a while, Chicago Justice.
Oh wow, interesting. The man's no doubt into the police work of many people. He was also executive producer of a CIA documentary. I guess the CIA files, I believe I'm called. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But he has a unique respect for the finest in the country there, all the boys and gals from in the blue there.
Yeah, one of the channels I watch shows episodes of Chicago Fire and Chicago PD, so I'm catching up on those.
Yeah. During the pandemic, I was watching a lot of the original Law Order on one station that was repeatedly, endlessly. Of course, we cannot forget the USA Network which has for the past couple of years been the Law and Order SVU channel, because they repeat episode after episode after episode after episode after episode. Gosh.
Well, the Island Channel does that too. Of course,
I know, yeah.
believe it or not, SVU has been on over 24 years.
Yeah, they're going to go in their 25th season there, believe it or not. It fits to say that SVU toppled the original. Because...
Well, actually, I think the only two originals left are Mariska Hargitay and Ice-T.
Yes, well...
Everybody else is new.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Christopher Meloni, he came back, but he's in his own series, which we mentioned, Organized Crime. Ice-T came in a couple of seasons later on, but the original was Hargitay, Meloni, Richard Belzer, who passed away earlier this year. And I guess Dan Florek as Captain Don Cragen. Much respect to him as well. He was a good character to check out. And when I heard that they were going to bring back the original Law and Order, my only concern was, are they going to bring back Sam Waterston as Jack McCoy? They did, thank goodness. It wouldn't be Law and Order without him. That's for shizzle.
Yeah.
All right.
There's the one consistent police guy, I can't remember his name. Needed to be there too if he could, if he was capable.
All right. Which one there? The guy who played Lady Briscoe?
I don't know any of them.
Well,
whoever. He was pretty much consistent throughout a long part of the seasons.
Let's
I
see.
can't. I just don't know his name.
I don't know. There was let's see, Anthony Anderson. There was let's see, let's see. The original there was Anthony Anderson. There was Dennis Farina. He was in there for a while there. We also had let's see, what's that guy says? Oh, Lenny. Jerry Orbach, who we mentioned, played Lenny Briscoe for many years. Chris Noth,
Yeah.
Mike Logan, that was the name of his character. And Chris Noth, also known as Mr. Big in Sex and the City, the HBO series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, by the way, speaking of which, Vincent D'Onofrio, who you may have remembered was on Criminal Intent for many years, he said he's hoping maybe Criminal Intent will be returning to TV pretty soon.
Oh, that would be good.
It would be, yes, because the Criminal Intent definitely was kind of stood out from the other Law and Order franchises because it was more like a Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson type of feel to it. When you look at
Yeah.
some of the cases and how it was presented before the intros would hit.
Yeah, and he was a quirky kind of character too.
He was, yeah. I
He was
remember.
along the lines of another quirky character who's one of my favorite all time, Columbo.
Oh my
What's that
gosh.
theme?
Yes, I remember his theme as well there, yes. Peter Falk, the guy who played Columbo, he was definitely quirky, but yet he was a good detective as well.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not forget the Rockford Files with James Garner.
Yep, and the Mike Post theme.
Yeah, he composed that theme as well?
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's because it was also Mike Post that did Hill Street Blues and Law and Order that we just mentioned.
Yep.
And many
Yep.
other TV. He also co-produced the Van Halen 3 album with Eddie Van Halen themselves. And that was the one with Gary Sharon as their front man.
If you look up Mike Post, it'll probably list his. I guess it'll list his what he's done.
Okay, let me look up the guy right now there, because I know he was also responsible for the familiar da-da that's featured on all the Law and Order shows there.
And ironically, he was also part of a outfit that was called Friend and Lover.
I
They
see.
their song was "Reach Out in the Darkness."
Oh, interesting there. Okay, there. Let's see what kind of stuff he's got here. Okay, give a couple of minutes there. He's most known for his theme music for TV programs like NYPD Blue, Renegade,
Right.
The Rockford Files, LA Law, Quantum Leap, Magnum PI, Hill Street Blues, all the Law and Order theme of Law and Order Special Victims Unit, the A Team, many of his. He even was the musical director for the Andy Williams Show. He was also writing theme music for a short-lived detective series called Toma in 1973. And he did, and believe it or not, here he won Grammys for best instrumental compositions for the themes of TV shows like Hill Street Blues and L.A. Law, as well as another Grammy for the best instrumental performance of Hill Street Blues theme, which reached number 10 in the U.S.
Wow.
Interesting there. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. There are themes that played on the charts and did well. A good example is the Hawaii Five-O theme by Ventures.
Oh my gosh, yes. No, we gotta brought up this one song that was featured on one TV show in particular. The Family Ties song by Billy Vera and the Beaters. We're not talking the theme music. That was done by Johnny Mathis and somebody else there whose name escapes me. But they had this one song playing while Michael J. Fox's character, Alex Keaton, was writing a letter to his girlfriend who had disappeared and went away. And that song, At This Moment, by Billy Vera and the Beaters, was playing in the background. People were calling NBC left or right, finding out who sings that song. It's such a sweet song there. And was a couple record label, one of the record labels, Rhino Records, got a hold of that song, put out a compilation, and next thing you know, boom, song becomes a massive hit. Still played on some soft rock stations to this day at times whenever they have those love programs around this
Right.
time of the night.
Well, and then another couple of themes that did real well.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Days started with 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock rock,
Mm-hmm.
but they later somebody did a theme called Happy Days
Yes.
that became a pretty big hit.
Yes, massive hit there. And Happy Days became a
Laverne
big
and
hit as
Shirley.
well. Yeah, because when it first started, it was like a kind of like a regular sitcom with a very few laughter. But when they decided to become an actual sitcom with the setup in Arnold's and all the characters set up in place, that's when that show really took off. That's for sure.
Yep.
And that's when you got to see Henry Winkler as the Fonz, Arthur P. Fonzarelli. One of the most iconic characters in the TV at that time. Hey, who wasn't doing that as a kid there? Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you had, like I said, Laverne and Shirley. Their theme became pretty much a hit.
Yeah. What was the name of that song? I forgot. I was thinking about it now. That was released.
No, I really can't remember,
Neither
but
can
I know it was a hit.
Yeah, I remember seeing it as a single one time there. Making our dreams come true. That's the name of it. Yeah. There we go.
Then everybody knows the Three's Company theme.
Oh yeah, come and knock on the door. Come and knock on the door. Who didn't
All
watch?
in the Family.
Oh my gosh, Maureen Stapleton and Carol
Carol
O'Connor. Yep, doing those were the days. Oh gosh, who? It's fit to say that was one of the most pioneering TV shows, period, because it dealt
Yeah.
with racism. It dealt with issue. One episode dealt with Edith being raped. It dealt with homosexuality. It dealt with a lot of race issues as well as social conflicts and everything else. It was a very pioneering TV show there. Very
Yeah.
pioneering, no doubt about it.
And here's another iconic theme, the Twilight Zone.
Oh gosh, still memorized to this very day.
Star Trek.
Star Trek, that's true. Oh, Sanford and Son, composed by Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, who didn't love that show with Red Fox?
In the Outer Limits, there's nothing wrong with your TV set.
We are controlling the dials. We have resumed all control. That's probably one of the most That's probably one of the most iconic shows as well. There, too bad it hardly gets mentioned compared to the Twilight Zone because, to me, the Outer Limits was a lot more freakier than the Twilight Zone when you think about it. There, remember we did.
And there was a lot of thought-provoking episodes.
Yeah. Gosh, and who cannot forget the misfit insect ants? Crying out that we discussed.
Oh yeah, the
Man.
Misfits. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And we're not talking the punk rock horror band, that's for sure. We're talking the creatures in the episode. In fact, anyone out there listening, you want to check out our TV memories segments there on my channel there. We still have one episode devoted to that program there. That's for sure. We're checking out.
Then there was the Amazing Stories.
All right. That aired on the Lifetime Network. Wasn't that on the
Oh, no,
Lifetime
it was
Network
on-
or ABC?
It aired on a regular network, but I don't remember which one.
Oh wow, because
And then I think it moved.
oh yeah, I see there. Oh, interesting. Of course, now we got to throw in this one, Miami Vice by Jan Hammer.
Yeah.
Now, Jan Hammer, as we all know, he's a keyboard player who prefers standing up when he plays his keyboards. Neil Sean of Journey, he did 2 albums with him. Jan Hammer also worked with the Jeff Beck Group. You may remember their rendition of Traffic Jam from Live with the Live with
Wind.
yeah, that's right. And we also cannot forget, of course, the theme from Miami Vice, as we just mentioned there. Also, a theme called Crockett's Theme from the same TV series. He also released an instrumental album called Escape from Television, which I guess was him departing from the television realms there because people are starting to pigeonhole him as just a TV composer.
Then there was Gilligan's Island.
Oh my gosh, man! Oh man! Oh
That's a
man!
theme everybody knows.
Absolutely, there. Gosh, I remember seeing a few. You remember the animated series of Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember seeing that a few times there. All right.
Then you got, I guess you'd call the rural bunch, Beverly Hillbillies,
Oh my goodness, yeah.
uh, Petticoat Junction,
Oh,
Green
interesting.
Acres, which actually that show is a great show.
Oh yes, I know the plot of it as well.
Well, there was a lot of in stuff going on that show. A lot of inside humor stuff that you got to be sharp to catch. I mean, they were doing stuff that was like at that time unheard of, almost police squadish, which was
Yep.
another one.
Yeah, Police Squad was a good one there as well. There, I enjoyed watching that too. But why the hell did he cancel it up before it even got off the ground for crying out loud? Because I enjoyed watching that.
It was a six show replacement for the summer,
Yeah,
and they just never did anything with it,
I don't know why,
which
but
was a shame because those are classic.
yeah, it was pretty awesome, man. We needed more TV like that. That's for sure. Yep.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, but then again, we also would have the Naked Gun film series as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you had the Mr. Ed show.
Oh
That
my
theme.
gosh. Damn. A talking horse, of course, of course.
But who ever heard of a talking horse?
Yeah.
That is, of course, unless the horse is a famous Mr. Ed.
Of course.
He never talked to anybody. How could he be famous?
Yeah. Who
Oh,
knows?
who
Yeah,
cares?
true there. Yeah. Either way, it is famous now because of the sitcom. That's for sure.
Actually, that was a pretty good show.
Yeah. I remember seeing it a couple times in the past.
I always felt sorry for poor Wilbur.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, going over across the sea there, the theme music to Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Also, we got. Oh, speaking of which, Benny Hill.
Right.
Who
Yeah, I think
didn't
that's Yakety
love
Sax.
Benny? Who didn't love Benny Hill when he was on the air?
Yeah,
I
he's
loved
considered sexist, but what are people talking about? I mean,
Well,
come on.
some of that stuff I remember was in the was the ones that we used to see back here in the States was filmed later on in the later 70s, I guess.
Right.
Of course, later on, the HBO would have the Benny Hill show almost a couple times in between a set of months there. We will all watch it. My favorite skit from him was Super Teach. Credit to Benjamin Hill. He was one of the greatest, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he was taken from us in 1993. He was about to sign a deal with BBC. And unfortunately, he's gone. We miss you, Benny. We miss you, Benny. No doubt about
Yeah,
that.
someday we need to have a show on the discussion of British comedies. Cause I've
Yes,
seen
we got to
a
do
lot
that.
of-
In fact, I think we should bring back TV Memories.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's a lot to talk about.
Absolutely there.
Let's see, what other kind of theme shows
All right, there.
we got here?
Speaking of British TV shows, what about The Goodies? You ever saw that program a couple times?
Yeah.
Goodies, goody goody, yum yum. I was watching a couple of those episodes for a while there when we was still in Texas. I was like, wow, I missed this TV show for sure. My favorite was the Lighthouse episode there.
Yeah.
Oh, The Young Ones. The Young Ones. But the name of the TV series with the late Rick Mayhall and Adrian Edmondson, Nigel Planner, and
Neighbors.
Christopher Reiner. Yep.
Good Neighbors.
Good Neighbors. The show Neighbors?
No, Good Neighbors. It was a British show.
Oh, okay there. My bad.
Faulty Towers. Oh, my
We're
gosh.
also with John Cleese from Monty Python. That's for
Oh.
sure.
That show was hilarious. There's only 12 episodes. British shows are funny that way. They do a very limited run. They don't have a lot of them that run a very long time.
That's true. Yeah, yes. I
I mean,
don't know
they
why.
have a few, but not very many.
Oh, we cannot forget this one. The theme from Doctor Who.
Right.
Oh man, how many interpretations there been of that? And we're still waiting. I
That is a
guess
wholly memorable theme.
absolutely there. My favorite is it was one of the originals there when in the '70s with Tom Baker, John Pertwee, William Hartnell. It's like I don't know, for some reason when I watch the Tom Baker intro, it's like wow, that brings back a lot of memories. I was like, remember seeing that it was at 4 in the afternoon of one of the local.
Well, the Tom Baker episodes are the one that were big in the States.
Yeah.
I mean, they did some of the others, but the Baker ones were the ones that everybody remembered.
And he was also the longest doctor in on that series there. I guess
That I'm not sure about.
because I know his
There's a
run.
couple of others that ran a pretty long time.
Yeah, it's true. I'm
The one
thinking
prior to him
John Pertwee.
ran a long time.
Oh wow, interesting there.
He was stuck on Earth. He didn't do the TARDIS bit much.
Yeah, because he was in exile. So he had to drive around in an automobile for a good set of years there, I guess.
Yeah, and they did that one quite a bit in the States too.
Ah, interesting. It fits to say that the way he dressed it, similar to how I dressed it at one of the clubs back in the 1990s, is how the Dr. Earl name came about.
Yeah, the if you want some of the really early episodes of William Hartnell and some of the others,
I did.
or the later ones, you got to go find them because a lot of them don't get shown here.
Well, there's Pluto TV, which features Doctor Who Classic. I was watching that with my nephew a couple times when I visited him when he was with his girlfriend.
And there's a string of episodes, I forget who the star was, that got lost because some idiot burned the films.
Oh, wow. I remember
Kind of like the old Johnny Carson thing.
Oh, wow. There. I know there was an episode called Shada, which was shelved for a long while in mid-production because there was this strike amongst the studio workers there. So what they did is they decided to add some computer animation to the rest of the storyline, and we was able to finally see that at BBC America a couple years back. It was a live action and animated at the same time into one episode.
I'm not sure if I've seen that, and I've seen
I think
pretty
it's-
much all of them, but I don't remember that one for sure.
I think it's called Shada. I think it was Shada.
Well, what they did with the so-called lost episodes is they had stills, and they showed stills, but they still had the dialogue. Now, I don't know how that
The
worked.
audio dialogue with the computer animation. They got that. I've seen previews of that for sure. Remember, it's on the Doctor Who YouTube channel for sure, man.
Let's see what other kind of themes we got there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you got the standard old stuff. Well, the Andy Griffith Show.
Interesting.
I mean, the guy whistling,
Yeah, it's do 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 do. I cannot whistle for crap, so I'm giving my interpretation of it. And that's when we first saw Ron Howard.
Yep.
His acting debut
how he
on that
got started.
program. Of course, Ron Howard would later star in Happy Days and would become a well-known, respected film director.
And then Andy Griffith moved on to Matlock.
That's true. Carol O'Connor also moved on to In the Heat of the Night.
Yeah.
In fact, they showed old episodes of that program on the TV at one of the local stations here in Florida. I see that. I guess it's called, forgot which station it was there, but they would, but it was a very short intro. It was like, in the heat of the night. They run by the credits very quickly there.
Oh, and there was Boris Karloff's Thriller.
Ah. Interesting. It's kind of like his introduction to this story and that story.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, yeah. Credit to him.
The theme to that show was memorable.
Absolutely. All right. All right, so,
Okay, tomorrow, what do we want to do since we don't have anything planned?
well, let's see. What about this? I'm not watching TV. What about we got to mention the CSI franchise
Ah,
because
that's right.
that's right because now CSI for CSI theme songs are basically songs that we already know and we know what band they use. The Who. They have
Right.
the Won't Get Food Again. Baba O'Reilly. Who Are You? And if it's to say that those songs helped propel the Who into a new generation, needless to say. In fact, that was one of the big reasons why they were invited to do the Super Bowl halftime show, I believe in 2010. Unfortunately, the problem was it's just Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend. Keith Moon,
Right.
their drummer, died in 1978. John Entwistle, the Ox, on bass, he died in 2002.
Yeah.
But the
There was
Who's.
what CSI, the original, Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
Miami, and New York.
Uh huh. Yes.
I don't know if there were any others or not.
I don't know. I don't know. That's another TV franchise we gotta cover sometime soon. There, if we
Yeah.
bring back TV memories for sure.
And we need to think about doing that once in a while.
Yes, I remember I did a video about that. Maybe we should bring that program back sometime soon. All right. So we'll definitely keep that in mind. But in the
So what do
meantime,
we do tomorrow night?
oh, what do you want to do possibly? You want to do WrestleManiacs tomorrow night?
Well, if we do that, what's the subject?
I don't know. What you got in mind? Throw us something out there.
I don't know. We pretty much covered the main stuff.
Oh, well,
Uh,
I got it to a good topic to talk about. I know it's kind of touchy to talk about, but this has been brought up a couple times. Sexual preferences in pro wrestling.
hmm,
And the reason I brought this up is because there were a lot of stories, backstage about Pat Patterson, Chris Canyon, this, situation, that situation, and plus, Vince McMahon's continuing sexual harassment cases there. We got to bring that up.
so I guess we're talking wrestling and sex.
Yeah, pretty much. Sex and wrestling, two of the greatest things that a man can enjoy. Yep, yep, yep. I guess could say that. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we'll definitely do that tomorrow night on WrestleManiacs. All right, there. So this concludes our episode of Music Maniacs. Now I'm hoping we'll have YR, Prince Idol, whoever on the call tomorrow evening at the same time. And